r/ask Reddit. What is the most disrespectful thing that someone has done in your home? Friend must have seen me once put in the code for my spare key lockbox, and I came home to her in my ducking house. Mind you, we're not close. Her excuse: she had to go to the toilet. Safe to say, I reset that shit and didn't invite her over anymore. Weirded me out. I had a best friend apparently steal my spare apartment key and made a copy of it. When I caught him at it, he tried lying, but I caught him in that too. Long story short, he was apparently in love with me and was coming into my apartment while I was at work because he missed me so much. He also admitted to stealing a pair of my underwear. It's a very unsettling feeling and really glad you caught your potential perv. 2. My mom made a huge dinner for my aunt and cousins. They showed up 2 hours late. Told my mom, oh sorry, the boys can't eat that much right now, and just went in our fridge and made them sandwiches instead. The same exact thing happened to us. My great aunt, poor old lady, spent the entire day cooking for a family meal we only had once a year as a tradition. It was the only holiday that all of us get together. They came 2 hours after they were supposed to come and didn't eat anything because they went out for dinner instead. Our family had a huge falling out with those specific people because of other reasons, but it sure signaled the end was coming. Ugh, this was my ducking cousin. My grandma would make a whole big meal, whether for a holiday or just to get together, and my cousin would want pizza instead, and then complain it was either over or undercooked. Ducking hated that girl and she grew up to be a shitty entitled adult too. She invited a bunch of sleazy guys over. Despite me asking her not to, she let them in while I was in the shower, so I did not realize they were in my house. She then took one into my housemate's bedroom and locked the door. Super disrespectful to my housemate, who had so kindly offered that she could stay in her room as she was going to be at her boyfriend's for the weekend. When I got out of the shower, one of the guys was in my bed, and I was like, dude, get the duck out of my bedroom. And he refused and said my friend said he could stay there. I was very not okay with that. I physically had to push him out of my house. The next day when she sobered up, I kicked her out of my house and did not speak to her for 3 years. In what universe could someone think my friend said I could be here trumps this is my bedroom? Get out. He hoped OP would fold if he stood his ground. You might be surprised how often it works. Constantly unplugging electronics. First it was the thermostat, she didn't like the sound the water heater made. Then the Wi-Fi, the CIA was snooping on her. And finally my fridge, she was saving the environment. If anyone unplugged my fridge, I would gently guide them to the door, nudge them out and never talk to them again. I did ask her to leave. She had gone through my things and taken my ex's lease agreement, called the police and claimed she lived there, my house. What happened after that? Did they believe her or did they not get tricked by her bullshit? This is a really messed up story. I did offer for her to stay as a guest for a few weeks, as she slowly started taking over and going mad. While I was out, things would get unplugged, stuff would be moved, and I realized later, stolen. And on one day she had a storage company deliver more boxes of stuff than I own. I believe this was intentionally done right before I snapped, knowing that it would make her insane vision more believable. Thankfully I kept calm when dealing with the police, as I can easily prove I own the place, and one gave me great advice: change the locks, refuse her entry and record everything as you pack her stuff, and be prepared for civil recourse. They mediated her entry to collect her crap, and when she couldn't keep herself composed, a lot of verbal abuse towards me, they started to see this person unravel. Like she claimed I stole a wedding dress and was determined to find it in my place, and the police just told her to sue me for it, but they aren't there to help her scavenge my place. Truly crazy. It was after an awful spinal surgery I went through when I was 12. They were cousins and my parents caught them trying to steal my painkillers. I had a half sister do that. She was staying with us for a bit. I had jaw surgery and she attempted to, maybe did, I'm not sure anymore, steal some pills. The worst part is she left some on the ground where my dog could have gotten them. Thankfully that didn't happen though. Dude crapped his pants while sitting on my couch playing a video game and just sat there finishing the match. We were having an old-fashioned LAN party and the entire room cleared out. It's really not a true LAN party until someone shits themselves, tbh. Sounds like a solid strategy. I was a kid, my mom had a friend and her son over. They were over for a couple hours and just as they were leaving I noticed all of my video games were gone. I told my mom. She goes grabs his backpack and of course they were all in his bag. His mother immediately came to his defense, saying he's got a lot of games and must have thought they were his. It didn't even make sense and she acted as if nothing had happened. Anyway, terrible mother. Kid had no chance. He is now in jail for life, no parole for shooting and killing a cop during a cocaine bust. Well, that escalated quickly. One day you're stealing video games. Next thing you know you're murdering cops during a cocaine bust. It's a slippery slope, my friend. A friend from college days stayed in our house while he was looking for a job in the area. The only house rule was, do not let the cat out. He's strictly an indoor cat and never goes outdoors. We came home one day and found the slider and screen open. Our beloved cat was gone. When he saw how upset and distraught we were, his response was, "It's only a cat, no big deal." As I've noted here some time ago, we put this guest out right away, and it wasn't until many days later that our cat returned home, thin, but safe. You broke the circle of trust. Foka. I had a similar situation except the roommate was my estranged father we let stay with us to help him get back on his feet. The cat never returned though. I kicked out my own father. Perfectly understandable. You gotta be able to follow simple instructions from your host if you are older than 10. Had a drunk partygoer attempt to do pull-ups from the planks of my old ranch style ceiling just beneath the heater vent and ended up pulling down a large portion of my ceiling. Refused to pay for it. One night the girls who lived in the apartment across the hall brought a friend with them to hang with us. As soon as she walked in she screamed, "This will be hilarious. College guys always get the shitty, hand-me-down dishes from their parents." She walked into the kitchen and began pulling out pans and dishes and howling about how old and ratty they were. Our friends were mortified. When they tried to talk to her she talked louder. After 30 seconds of this lunacy my roommate and I told her to leave. She threw a giant fit and called us a-holes. What a weird way to entertain yourself. Jesus. Even weirder way to introduce yourself. Not my home, but I was renting a house and the landlady kept turning up unannounced and would let herself in and would give the key to people doing work on the house without telling us, so we'd, without warning, have strangers let themselves into the house. It was a very stressful way to live. Very stressful, and if you live in the States, also very illegal. I had a landlord like this. He was obsessed with his garden that was on the property and would just show up out of the blue and start gardening. I had a newborn at the time and he gave me super creep vibes, so if he would knock on the door, I'd just hang out in my room until he went away. My husband worked during the day so I would always be home alone when he would randomly show up. This one particular day, thinking I was not home, he just started hanging around the yard. He mowed the lawn, picked a few apples, and then took off his shirt and went for a swing on our tree swing. He hung out in our yard for 3 hours while we weren't home. Dude used to freak me the duck out. A babysitter stole my vibrator and blocked my calls. Like, really? Why would you want someone else's vibrator? Maybe it was a horny 16-year-old who couldn't buy herself one, but that's still beyond disgusting and horrible. Somebody left small children in our house while they went to the grocery store. This happened to me. My downstairs neighbor, who I had only talked to once before, knocked on my door and asked if I could watch his 9-month-old daughter while he ran to the store. This poor girl was soaked in pee and had dried food and snot all over her face, so I couldn't say no. I took her in, cleaned her up, and played with her for 2 hours until he came back. I'm 90% sure this grocery shopping was actually a drug deal. I rented a room to someone I knew since I was 12. He was using and selling H from my house. I found out and told him to GTFO. He was too lazy to use the bathroom and pissed in bottles. I didn't know. Threw the piss all over the room before he left. Carved swastikas in my kid's bunk bed I was letting him use. My grandmother took in a family off the street who lived in their car. She lived alone, and no one was happy about it. But grandma does what grandma wants. She goes upstairs to clean their bathroom, finds their meth lab, calls my uncle to ask if she should call the police, because she doesn't want to put the family into more trouble. Yep, she called. A now ex-girlfriend came into my parents' home for only the second time and said to my mother, "Wow, it's tidy in here for a change." Haha, I could see in my mother's eyes the thought process of how to slap her to the next century without making a scene. Thankfully she laughed it off, but that was a big red flag for me and my ex. Back in college, my roommates and I hosted a birthday party for a mutual friend at our apartment. Earlier that day we gifted her a pet goldfish because she had been talking about getting a fish. Fast forward to later in the night, our male friend, let's call him Mike, decided he needed to find a way to impress our other friend, who I'll call Dollar. Mike tries every lame joke and pick up line on Dollar and fails time and time again. Then he sees the goldfish in his tank and scoops him up in his hand. He says, "Check this out, Dollar." He then plops the fish into his mouth and swallows it alive. My roommate and I immediately rush over and start trying to make Mike puke the fish back up. Dollar quickly makes for the door and leaves the party. Sadly, that fish met its doom in Mike's stomach that night. He never apologized, although he did complain about severe stomach issues for several days afterwards. TLDR. Bought a fish for a friend and another friend swallowed it alive at a party to impress, flirt with someone. Yeah, because us girls love watching when a guy swallows. Golden fins flapping, oh dear god. When I was in like 2nd grade, I invited this girl over and we made popcorn as a snack, and not even 5 minutes later, this twat decided it's a good idea to run all over my house throwing it everywhere. This goes on another 5 minutes while I chase her down. But the damage is done. The popcorn isn't between couch cushions, under the fridge, under my bed, in my laundry basket, all over the damn floor. My mom ends up sitting us down and proceeds to lay it out on her, telling her that what she did was disrespectful and to help clean up. She pouted and said no, saying since it wasn't her house she didn't have to clean shit. She continued to pout as my mom called her mom and pretty much told her to leave and to not expect to be invited back anytime soon. I haven't spoken to her in a while, but apparently she got banned from the mall for trashing a Lush store with her friend, throwing food, dumping out products, and smashing bath bombs, so I guess she hasn't changed much. Intruded in a homemade family dinner uninvited and then insulted my cooking. Didn't get a thank you either. Don't get me wrong, a lot of these comments describe vandalism and theft and drunken drug-fueled ahalery, but I can never ever stand for someone eating another's home-cooked food and being disrespectful. It's just not okay. One of my little brother's friends would always ask for something else to be made, even if it was a steak just for him. He'd want the leftover pizza or some French fries. Despite him being a relatively normal kid, we all hated him for spurning our food. Kicked my cat, smoked my weed without permission, pissed on the toilet seat, then stole some games when they left, all in one 40-minute visit. I honestly do not understand people that go into someone else's home and hit their animal. Like, who do you think you are? When I was a kid, I invited a friend over and she tried to trap and suffocate my new kittens in a box. What the actual duck? Little psychopath. Buddy from college was traveling through town and stayed with my wife and I for the weekend. Nothing crazy. Hung out and remembered our college years. A few days after he left, my guest bathroom reeked. Took a bit to figure out, but finally discovered an upper decker left for us. Disgusting. As in he shat in the tank? Why? After a presumably pleasant visit? Like, what is the thought process here? Revenge? A shitty, pun intended, prank? He must have known that you would figure out he did it. Have you talked to him since? Correct. He thought he was being funny. Our group in college would pull pranks on each other all the time. Not this bad. The problem is everyone else matured. He did not. Our paths haven't crossed since he stayed with us. Only a few comments and group chats. He hasn't apologized. Told me to chill. It was just a joke. Honestly, I'm done. Started opening all the drawers in my room. TF. Why would they do that? I really don't understand people that have no boundaries. Video game protagonist. Someone ducking broke my Super Smash Bros. For THR GameCube. Years ago, my then boyfriend, now ex, came over to my house unexpected the day of my mom's birthday. My siblings and I were busy decorating. He made himself comfortable on the couch and played on the Xbox. He was out of the way, so I ignored him. Just before she gets home I make him turn off the console. Mum gets home and we do the whole surprise bit. X immediately, like, my mom hadn't even gotten past the entryway, grabbed the controller, turned the Xbox on, slapped my ass and told me to get him a drink as he sat back down on the couch. I snatched the controller out of his hands and told him to go home. And then you dumped him. Tried to discipline my very old, very sick dog for jumping up on the couch after they had given the jump up on the couch signal to him. I had trained him to come by patting 3x on whatever surface he was invited to, and this person kept doing the pat 3x then yelling at the poor confused puppy for coming. They were trying to summon the cat and it went as well as expected. Context: I'm 16, not able to move out yet, obviously, and live at home with my grandma. Have done for years. My father is absentee, and my mother has mental issues, hence why I don't live with either of my parents. My mother comes over at least every second day just to eat our food and use our Wi-Fi, electricity and TV. She will randomly come over unannounced and just sit on her phone for hours then leave without a word, eating half our fridge in between. She has had the audacity to command television rights and bitch about what I wanted to watch when I'd gotten home from school. She has bitched about the food in our fridge and pantry, fully knowing that it is a lower income household. I met a cute girl through work. We got along pretty well and there was definitely flirting involved and I eventually got up the nerve to ask her out on a date. We get drinks and as things do, we ended up at my place. As I'm mixing up a couple of cocktails she just starts opening things, drawers, cabinets, my ducking deep freeze. It took me a couple of seconds to fully grasp what she was doing and when I asked what the duck she was doing, just seeing what you got was her explanation. After that, I decided to keep our relationship strictly professional. I made an account just to share this story. We had friends over for my girlfriend's birthday and to celebrate moving into a new apartment together for the first time. A guy we knew from college kept stealing people's drinks throughout the night and got incoherently drunk. He lived a couple hours away but got too drunk to go home. So we let him stay despite already having a friend from out of town who planned to stay with us. In the middle of the night, the drunkard stripped down, forced the other guest off the only air mattress and pooped himself massively. He then tracked poopy footprints all over the apartment, smacked poopy handprints on all the doorknobs, including in the bedroom where we were sleeping, covered all our towels and blankets in his butt sauce, and peed in some places. Oh, but it's not like he didn't make it to the bathroom. He left a second, possibly third shit in the toilet. No flush, no apology, just left at like 6 AM, without his poopy underpants. Those he left on the ruined air mattress in a steaming heap. Needless to say, the surprise breakfast waffles for my girlfriend were not as enjoyable. Blew their vape smoke in my cat's face. I told her that wasn't okay and to never do it again. Then she promptly did it again. Told her again not to ever do that. So she blew it in my face. Kicked her out and haven't spoken to her since. I considered her a best friend, but that just shows so much disrespect and I don't keep true a-holes around. I had friends over in middle school to order food and hang out. I ordered a soda with my meal. My friend didn't, and upon delivery she realized the only available soda was the one I had ordered for myself. She said she always drinks soda with her food and cannot not drink soda with dinner, and instead of going to a deli to get her own or just sucking it up, she took my ginger ale. It's not my fault she didn't think to order her own ducking soda. I haven't forgotten. Debbie. My buddy came over with his son and me and my son and them were watching a wrestling PPV. My wife and his wife went out shopping. They got back and the wife wanted to go home. We were on the last match. My friend and his son wanted to finish the show. She walks over and unplugs my TV. I was beyond pissed. My friend was too and began yelling at her and apologized to me and my wife. After that, anytime we'd have any type of activity, I purposely don't invite her. My condo was having major work done to the whole building. The ceilings had to be torn up. I had my bed covered but still was very upset when I got home from work and saw that the workers threw a shovel full of dirt on my bed. I realized to them it is a workplace, but to me it is my home. They shouldn't have used my bed as a trash can. Was living in a bachelor pad with a friend. We were in the process of tiling the floor, so it was mostly just concrete slab. Roommate had a mutual friend over and brought their idiot country ass cousin. Guy proceeds to spit chewing tobacco all over our floor before my roommate catches him doing it and confronts him. Dumb hillbilly response is it's cement. What's it gonna hurt? Genuinely didn't think he'd done anything wrong. Still pisses me off years later. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cuss you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.